Hey, come see us live. We're doing our Rumble Time show September 27th in Los Angeles. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, and we'll be in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So what Bobby Kennedy is saying is that Trump got duped in his first term. That he got that the swamp kind of smothered him, and he didn't know. You know, he had to hire 60,000 people and for the federal government, and he didn't really know what he was doing because he was a political novice. And so, but he learned from that, so he won't make those mistakes in this second term, especially with Bobby Kennedy advising him. Bobby Kennedy is outspoken against the Ukraine war and against the war with Russia and China, except for the war in the Middle East. Bobby's all on board. What do you make of that? Do you think that because that's the only hope there is in this country right now, because Kamala Harris is just like having Victoria Nuland be the president of the United States. I mean, it's over. They will ramp up the war in Ukraine. They will ramp up war with Russia. They will ramp up, and we're messing with nuclear powers now, and they will do a war with Iran at the behest of Israel. They will do every war possible, including Venezuela, and no matter what it is, they won't stop. So what do you make of that when Bobby Kennedy gave a big speech, or he was on a podcast, and he talked about how that Trump got duped and he was overwhelmed his first term, but he's learned, and this next term that he won't let that happen. Do you think that? I mean, I think Bobby's sincere, but do you think Trump is? And what do you make of that?
I think there's some truth in that, and I saw it myself while I was in the White House, but you know, it's not just Bobby Kennedy saying that. It's also James Comey, the FBI director, who, if you recall, after he was fired as the FBI director, began this sort of publicity tour about how bad Trump was. And in one of the panel discussions he was on a couple of years after he was fired, he said, you know, he was asked about how they set up, you know, Mike Flynn and had if you remember, there were the handwritten notes from the FBI agents. Are we going there to get him fired or to get him to perjure himself? Like, literally, they're like, is the purpose of this cloak and dagger thing we shouldn't be doing, or this cloak and dagger thing it's illegal for us to do? But Comey was asked about that, and what he said was, well, we wouldn't have done that to Hillary Clinton, in part because we wouldn't have been able to, but the Trump administration was so green in January 2017. They were such novices that we figured, they'd fall right into our trap. And I think that is a very accurate assessment of the first 3 years of the Trump administration. It really took until about early 2020 for a few things to happen, not just the institutional knowledge of Trump sort of starting to get a peripheral vision of what he's up against. I still wouldn't say it's a clear line of sight, but I think his peripheral vision on these things has improved. But also, Trump had to do favors for a significant wing of the Republican Party. Remember, because he didn't just beat the Clinton dynasty when he got in 2016. He also beat the Bushes, and at the time, every member of Congress was every career civil service official at the State Department or CIA or DOD, every foreign affairs every foreign service member, they were all Bushes, or they were a part of the Bush, Romney, McCain axis. There was no like Pat Buchanan populist right, seats in government, so he had to win them over, having coming into it not just against the Democrats, but also against his own party. And so I think it took him several years to actually put enough favors in the favor bank. He gave the Pentagon more funding than it had ever asked for. He did things like bomb Syria, with what was probably a token show, but he did all these sort of maneuverings. Now, part of that, I think, was because he needed the Republican support to stave off Russiagate, but when Russiagate ended in July 2019, he began to make quite serious changes, including he changed his presidential personnel office. He changed the practice of hiring and firing political appointees. He basically started unshackling himself from donors. If you recall, he had John Bolton as a national security advisor for about 3 months, and then fired him and said, if I'd kept going with John Bolton, we'd be in World War VI by now. But so he did. It's sort of like if you remember the pussy tape in the 2016 election.
Yes.
And when it happened, there was like,
grab him by the pussy.
3/4 of the country was like, it's over. But then he took to Twitter. He was like, well, I'm unshackled now. I'm just going to do. And so, there was really the beginning of that. And that's why the Democrats are so obsessed with this Project 2025 thing, even though it's, what is it? It's like a side project of heritage by people not even on Trump's campaign, but they've made this whole Project 20. Well, it's because Project 2025 articulates this Schedule F technique for the mass firing, mass layoffs of these blob bureaucrats, which is the main institutional control to stop the agenda to reform the government at DOD, at state, at CIA, at HHS. So Trump has expressed that he wants to do that, and that's one of the reasons they're tying him to Project 2025. But he may need to back off that to not get assassinated.
All right, Mike, I hate to end our interview, but I have other guests waiting, and we're already over time. And I really appreciate you coming on. Mike, how come you're allowed to tell these truths? Why haven't they come for your Twitter account? Why haven't they thrown you in jail?
Well, I don't have a YouTube. I don't have a Facebook. I only started this social media account after Elon acquired X, and there was, the promise of freedom on there. So I sort of rolled the dice by, because I saw what happened to people who spent their life's work building up a voice, and then, you lose it all because, the YouTube answers to what the government says, or their own censors take you out. But, for me, I don't know. I mean, I get asked that question a lot, which is like, how has no one killed you? And then how have you not killed yourself? Because some of the stuff is somewhat depressing. But, the fact is I think Julian Assange is a complete and total hero. I think Snowden is a hero. Everything I do is open source. Everything I do is, when I talk about the National Endowment for Democracy, I'm using their own documents. I'm not, I don't meet with sources. I don't get, special information. I'm trying, basically trying to explain this almost like, an internet university professor, just trying to help people sense make what these institutions say about themselves. But at the same time, I'm well aware that, when you fly too close to the sun, you get burned. And there are things that, frankly, I think need to be published that I've been too afraid to publish because of that exact concern that you expressed. But, hopefully we can build up a free speech coalition, as I think has started to come together through Elon, I think being good, through Rumble being secure, through allies in Congress taking this issue seriously, finally, through lawyers, moving into the space. I'm putting my hope in the fact that this is something bigger than my own life. And if something happens to me, then if I'm a dead man walking, I'm going to walk as far as I can. So hopefully that never happens, but we'll see. Okay.
Mike Benz, everybody check out his Twitter account. I really appreciate you coming on today, and I hope we could get you back on. There's lots more stuff I'd like to talk to you about.
Thanks, Jimmy. And I'm a big fan of your leadership and your work and your voice, so I appreciate your time today.
I appreciate that. Okay, come see us live. We're doing our Rumble Time show September 27th in Los Angeles. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, and we'll be in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.